Welcome to Star Watch Now, your front row seat to all the hottest gossip, drama, and breaking news from the world of entertainment. If it's trending, shocking, or star-studded, we're covering it. Stay tuned. You won't want to miss what's coming next.
People thought they had already seen everything. They thought this was just another headline designed to stir fans for a few hours and disappear into the endless scroll. But this time, something felt different. When the names Harlem and Xiao Zhan appeared side by side, the reaction was not instant excitement. It was hesitation, a pause, because everyone understood what that pairing implied. One is a defining voice of an era, a figure whose music shaped emotional memories across generations. The other stands at the center of today's spotlight, constantly examined, praised, questioned, and measured. When those two worlds quietly intersected, it was never going to be ordinary. This was not announced with fireworks. It did not arrive wrapped in promotional language. Instead, it surfaced almost by accident, through a few carefully chosen words that carried far more weight than any grand declaration. And in an industry where noise is often mistaken for value, this moment stood out precisely because it was calm. If you are still watching, it is because you sensed it too. This was not just about music. It was about recognition, timing, and a rare kind of connection that cannot be manufactured. The story did not begin on a shared stage or inside a recording studio. It began with a performance that many initially saw as just another high-profile appearance. Xiao Zhan stepped onto a familiar stage performing a classic song associated with a voice that defined a generation. On the surface, it looked like a respectful tribute, but those who listened closely noticed something else. He did not lean on imitation. He did not attempt to modernize the song beyond recognition. Instead, he approached it with restraint. The phrasing was measured. The emotional progression was carefully controlled. There was confidence, but no display for display's sake. For an audience accustomed to spectacle, this quieter approach was unexpected. It invited attention rather than demanding it. Somewhere beyond the cameras and applause, Harlem was watching. This matters more than people realize. In the Chinese music industry, praise from a senior figure is not handed out casually. Experience brings discernment, and discernment brings silence more often than applause. When Harlem later spoke about the performance, his words were simple, almost understated. He said he felt fortunate to have this musical connection. He spoke of performance ability, not popularity. He spoke of understanding, not trendiness. That distinction changed everything. Suddenly, this was no longer about a young star covering a famous song. It became a moment of professional acknowledgement, the kind that carries meaning within the industry long after public attention shifts elsewhere. What followed was unusual. There was no immediate controversy, no forced narrative, no aggressive defense or counter-argument. Viewers who had watched the stage began revisiting it, this time with different ears. Industry observers quietly nodded. Fans felt proud, but not defensive. The conversation shifted from numbers to nuance. People spoke about breath control, emotional timing, and the difficulty of honoring a classic without losing one's own identity. In an environment often driven by extremes, this shared agreement felt almost unfamiliar. It was not loud, but it was steady. And that steadiness is precisely what allowed the story to travel further than most viral moments. But the reason this collaboration stayed in people's minds had less to do with the performance itself and more to do with what came after. As attention lingered, fragments of Xiao Zhan's private routines began to resurface. Not dramatic revelations, not carefully staged lifestyle content, just small, almost mundane details. hours spent assembling jigsaw puzzles, long stretches of quiet focus, a preference for slowing down when the world expected him to speed up. At first, these details seemed unrelated. Then the connection became clear. The patience required to piece together a puzzle mirrored the patience evident in his work. The willingness to sit with silence explained the composure on stage. The refusal to rush offered insight into his approach to growth. This contrast resonated deeply with viewers. Many recognized themselves in it. The pressure to perform, the need to meet expectations, the longing for a moment of calm in an overwhelming environment. In that sense, the story expanded beyond two musicians. It became a reflection of modern life. Success, framed not as constant acceleration, but as sustained focus. Recognition earned not through volume, but through consistency. Harlem U's acknowledgement came to symbolize something larger. It suggested that even in a fast-changing industry, there remains space for substance. That skill, when cultivated quietly and presented honestly, will eventually be seen. As discussions continued, people began referring to this connection as a dream collaboration. Not because of contracts signed or projects announced, but because it represented an ideal alignment of values. Respect flowing in both directions. Generational distance bridged through shared musical understanding. It was aspirational without being exaggerated, emotional without being manipulative. And that balance is rare. It is also why the story refused to fade. Each retelling added another layer, another interpretation, another reason to revisit the original moment. Perhaps the most powerful aspect of this narrative is what it does not insist upon. It does not demand admiration. It does not frame anyone as flawless. Instead, it invites reflection on how art evolves, on how recognition is earned, on how slowing down can sometimes move you further than rushing ever could. For many viewers, that invitation was enough. They stayed, they listened, they shared. And in doing so, they helped this story travel further than any algorithm could predict. As we come to the end of this story, one thing becomes clear. This was never just about two famous names appearing together. It was about what happens when preparation meets opportunity, and when experience recognizes sincerity. If you found yourself thinking about this long after the video began, you are not alone. That lingering feeling is the reason stories like this matter. Thank you for spending your time with us here on Star Watch Now. If you appreciate real stories told with care and depth, consider subscribing to the channel and staying with us. Your support allows us to keep exploring moments that might otherwise pass quietly, even though they deserve to be heard. Until next time, take care and keep watching.